Joining me now, Marc Morano. He is with theclimatedepot.com. He's also the author of Green Fraud, Why the Green New Deal is Even Worse Than You Think. Marc, I already thought it was bad. How could it possibly be worse?
Well, it's worse than we think because of the COVID lockdowns. They've been inspired by governments being able to issue an emergency decree, bypass democracy, and that is what's happening with the Green New Deal. At the moment, the reason the Green New Deal is way worse than we would ever have conceived of 2 years ago when it was introduced is because they are implementing it through the administrative agencies of the federal government behind the scenes, without a vote of Congress, without hearings, without a big brassy introduction, without any kind of public attention being drawn to it. Every agency is a cabinet agency, including our finances, our Pentagon, Interior Department, on down. The Green New Deal is making its way through transportation bills everywhere. It is being implemented as we speak, and the public is largely, almost completely unaware of it.
I'm unaware of it. In what ways is it being implemented? Give me some examples.
Okay. Well, the first thing President Biden did, first of all, this a little history. President Obama in 2008 obviously was elected. I was working in the U.S. Senate Environment and Public Works. He tried getting public support, going the traditional route with legislation. He did it with health care, and he barely got it passed after a lot of arm twisting. Nancy Pelosi kept doing it. So they failed with climate. They got it past the House. It failed in the Senate. He was hit upon by all the progressives for being a total failure on climate. The Washington Post even said Obama, failed. They called him George W. Obama, his climate legacy. So he went behind the scenes. He started doing massive executive orders. They did EPA regulations. They started regulating carbon dioxide as a pollutant. That went on under Obama on a small scale compared to what's happening now. But then Trump came in and reversed it all. Well, what President Biden has done, beginning day one, all the same executive orders Biden did, but where he's different than President Obama, President Biden, he is going to levels that heretofore were unthinkable in a democracy. So what he's doing behind the scenes is he's starting, first of all, he's banned all of the energy exploration on federal lands. They're now implementing through executive order all sorts of restrictions on fossil fuel, everything on, by the way, including on your vehicle mileage ability. All these mandates for green energy through a infrastructure bill that was literally 5% traditional infrastructure. The money is going to all of these green expenditures and finances. They're now putting forth through the Treasury Department finances where private banks won't be able to lend money to any energy exploration, to mining, to oil exploration. They're going to make it very difficult by doing sort of a social credit. You will get bad ratings if you do it. So they're drying up the financing. Every agency, and Biden is a climate agency. You have the Pentagon working overtime on this, where everything is just going green, thinking green, and it's being done in the administrative state. So a future president-style Trump, who's going to come in and try to undo it in 4 years, it's going to be very difficult because now you have all the corporations, you have the automakers not even resisting these fuel economy standards because they want regulatory certainty, which means we're statutorily killing things like the American SUV. People are like, I'll never drive an electric car. They'll never get my fossil fuel vehicle away. Well, they will with higher gas prices. And that's the other thing. President Biden is begging OPEC now to increase oil production because they've shut down so much, and so much of the oil market is what you call a futures market. Biden's signal of shutting down American energy through all of his actions has emboldened China. Now we are nearing record levels of Russian oil imports. And again, we're begging OPEC to increase their production. We went from energy dominant under President Trump to energy dependent, which means the more likelihood of wars and future wars over energy, when we were used to be able to world's largest oil and gas, and we used to have more energy production than consumption, more energy exports than imports. It was an amazing thing to see how much we'd come because of our technological revolution. That is being crushed in favor of a future hope that solar and wind is going to just magically take over and we'll have technological breakthroughs.
Marc, I want to go back to something you just brought up earlier. The Pentagon is in on all this Green New Deal. Please elaborate. Why?
The Pentagon believes, and John Kerry is behind this, and as well as the generals who President Biden has appointed, that climate change is the existential threat, the greatest national security threat we face. So therefore, when you negotiate things like Chinese human rights abuses, Chinese slavery allegations in the country, that can all be waived because climate is such an existential national security threat. We have to work with China. We have to make deals with them. We have to make climate progress with them. And even with Russia, where we waived their ability to now send all this oil to our allies in Europe. And this had been something the Trump administration opposed, the Russian gas pipeline. Biden lifted essentially the restrictions on it. So all sorts of things like that are happening when it's the exact opposite. Climate change is not a national security threat. Our energy climate policy is the national security threat. It's going to make America dependent on foreign sources of oil. China, Russia, and OPEC. They're back. And this is like the 1970s again. We already faced the gas lines, but now we have OPEC becoming a major player as a sitting U.S. president, begging them to increase oil production because our domestic demand is having trouble meeting supply right now.
Hey, thanks so much for watching the first on YouTube. If you liked what you saw, go ahead and like and subscribe. You heard me. Like it, subscribe. You'll get a lot more of it and a lot more of me. Thanks.